Happy Monday, everybody. It's Gabe,
It's Caleb.
and today we are joined by Kamar, coming from the It's Relational podcast. So big shout out to him for coming on. We're super excited to dive into this episode. So if you want to give a quick little introduction of who you are, just so our audience kind of can catch up to speed.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you, Caleb and Gabriel, for having me come on. I appreciate it. I don't take it lightly. So, again, my name is Kamara. I'm joined by my wife, Deanne, just not on this episode. But normally we have our podcast together called It's Relational, where we go through, relationship aspects, but we like to interview singles and couples and kind of hear their perspectives on relationships. So we do interview style. But the point behind it is just to show how relationships are very similar, but also drastically different, and just using those principles and seeing how it can help in your personal relationship. So that's a little bit about us. But thank you again for having me come on.
Awesome. Yeah, we're super excited. And then for Kamar's audience as well, we can kind of give a little bit of introduction of ourselves. So my name's Gabriel, Gabe, and we are co-hosts of the Positive Outlook podcast. Basically, we come on here with different mental tactics or perspective changes, stuff like that, to kind of help you guys change your outlook on life to a more positive style.
Yeah, we're basically just here to try and spread a little positivity, fill you guys in on some of experiences that we've had, and just kind of try and build a better mindset.
Yeah. So it's gonna be awesome to see these two topics tie into each other, and I'm excited for it. I know I am.
Right. Yes, 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 definitely.
Yeah. All right, Kamar, what are we talking about today?
All right. So today's topic is really pivotal, really good, and I'm excited for it. With today's topic, we're going to be talking about the impact of the positive outlook in relationships. And we're going to get into all of that and just see how, the encompasses, everyday life. And we're going to see how it encompasses, personal relationships. So it's going to be a doozy of an episode today.
Awesome. I love it. I love it so much. Um, now, personally, because you're basically you guys' whole platform is based on relationships. What is the impact of having a positive outlook in a relationship?
Right. Great question. So I think with starting a romantic relationship, if you already go into a romantic relationship with the intention that it may not work out, you're already doomed to fail in the relationship. So the benefits of having that is, seeing something that is future wise, like something that the long view that you could see it happening or, spanning, one, two, three, finite, infinite, finite or infinite, if you want to say years. But generally, it's also good on the mentals, right? And when I say the mental, when you think about it, if I'm fixated and constantly worried about, what might be going on, what might be happening, it's going to negatively impact the relationship, romantic relationship. So the goal is always to, I guess you want to say like everybody thinks positive until unfortunately something negative happens. That would always be my goal in seeing with that relationship. So kind of to answer your question a little bit, Gabe.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. I like to make this analogy here because Caleb and I talk about a lot about goal setting, achieving milestones in our lives, stuff like that. And so I see the connect where it's a very superficial level, but how almost a relationship is like trying to achieve a goal, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I want to twist this. Shout out to Caleb talking about goals, stuff like that. What do you think are some techniques or similar practices that you can see in a relationship along with chasing a goal?
That's for me, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's for you.
Okay. So I think that's awesome. Basically, when you have a relationship, I think it really does help to almost over celebrate things, if that makes sense. So when you hit a milestone, when you hit an achievement, for example, a lot of people called me dumb for celebrating my girlfriend and I's first month together,
Mm-hmm.
right? A month isn't a big deal, but for us, it's one of our first relationships. It was a milestone that we saw. So I think, hitting these little milestones is a lot bigger of a deal than some people might think. And so I think it's awesome to kind of keep looking forward to it. I don't think you should put too much stress or too much pressure on just the future, of course. So I'd say that's a big difference between goals and relationships. Just because I think it's, with a goal, you're obsessed about it. always looking for it. You're getting those deadlines. You're smashing those. But the
Right.
biggest difference as well for that aspect is that you're no longer by yourself. You are now working with another human being. And
Hmm.
so I think it's kind of important to I think it's a cool way to compare it to goals, but you also have to be careful.
Awesome. I love that. That was really good, Caleb. Um, and what I like to bring up there is that what you said is that you are no longer alone. It's not just you, kind of in that race. It's you as a teammate. And kind of
Right.
going into my next question for Kamar was, what attributes in a relationship makes a couple a good pair of teammates?
Wow, great question. And I think, I came off of a previous episode, and this is something that, we know, but it's kind of like not really, I guess, well known. So honestly, a lot of people say in relationship, what a good attribute is communication. We all can say that, till we're blue in the face. However, the caveat to communication would truly be the comprehension outside of the communication. Because a lot of times, yes, communication, but if the person is not comprehending what we're communicating, you are speaking to a wall, and you're not getting anywhere. You're not getting anything accomplished. So truly, what I would say, one of the major things that I've learned personally, me and my wife married, over we're gonna be 8 years this August. But what we've learned is communication, yes, but the part two is the comprehension. There's no point of me describing my feelings if she's not getting it. There's no point of her describing, what she's going through if I'm not truly getting it. So that's one of the two major attributes I'd kind of want to, touch on me personally. I'm curious what you may have in mind, Gabe.
Well, first of all, that was awesome. That was a big truth bomb. You do hear a lot about communication does. It is one of the most important qualities in a relationship, but the comprehension outside of the communication is just like that little icing to the cake that makes it so important and kind of really.
And
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to throw in before we like keep moving with it. That's huge because in public speaking, we are taught that when you are talking to an audience, you have to remember that you're talking to a different person that has different connections with things that you say. So the
Hmm.
input of what you say is going to be taken differently by anybody that listens to it. They're all going to have different perspectives. So that's actually awesome that you were saying that. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. And so now to I think at the end of that you kind of asked me what I think would be a good characteristic for a relationship. What makes some good teammates? Now communication is obviously like it's a go-to. It's a great one. So it's tough because that was gonna be my no, I'm just kidding. Spinning it now, I would say kind of like the willingness to learn. So being open minded to each other's practices. So how you live your life, what you do in your day to day, how schedules line up, stuff like that. Just the willingness to learn each other and kind of become like that symbiotic relationship, I guess.
All right,
Yeah.
good answer.
Thank you. And also, congratulations on almost 8 years. That is awesome. And I
Yes.
I want to. I had another question. That is I want to hear from almost an 8 year long marriage. Now, when it comes to arguments, because obviously every single relationship is going to have certain times where you guys just butt heads, where you just don't get along. And I do have to ask, what do you learn from the arguments? Like, what is something you can always kind of take a step back and learn or take away from?
Well, I've learned for me personally, or for us personally, when you're at that breaking or broken point where you're already over the edge, what I found is we still have to be extremely mindful of what we're saying at that moment because, not to correlate the two, but a heated argument is kind of you're getting the same feelings as somebody who is inebriated, right? And so it's unfiltered, but you can't take it back,
Hmm.
regardless of how many times you say sorry. So what I've learned for me is, I don't know if it's a skill or ability, but I'm able to like know what I'm thinking or doing during an argument. So like I can hold back certain words, like, oh, I can actually say this, but don't. So it's just being really cognizant of what you're saying during that argument. But what's probably even better is, during an argument, nobody's really listening to each other. We're just yelling to see who's louder, who's louder.
Hmm.
What I find for me is really helpful. Sometimes I have to just walk away. Like, you know what? I just need some time and just walk away. and let that kind of cool down on its own, because we're never going to win an argument. Like, it's not a winning battle. So yes, we're going to disagree, but if we can't get to a point where we're not hearing each other and comprehending, we have to just take a break from each other. So that's what me and my wife personally do. If we're not hearing from each other and comprehending, we just say, you know what, I'm gonna take a step outside, go in the other room. But you do your best to do that as politely as possible, because you're not thinking to be polite during an argument. It's just like
Correct.
my
Yeah.
point, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we've learned and helped us so much, especially in like the latter of our marriage. Our first couple of years, oof, two dogs fighting.
Yep. That's awesome. Though that you can kind of make that, I guess, draw that line as you continue and go through the experiences of it, and be able to understand that when you are in the moment, things you're saying, you're just speaking to be mean, So being able to take that step back and comprehend the situation is so important. And you brought up and earlier in this episode, you brought up how important communication is. And outside of that is the comprehension of the communication. Now, I feel like when we speak when we're upset, when we're speaking to a significant other, we aren't comprehending in the moment. Is that comprehension comes later, and that's what continues to draw on the argument. Because as you can see, like when couples are fighting, most of the time they don't even know what they're upset about. But it's that I feel like it's most of the time it's like that subconscious comprehension of what happened last argument, and then the one before that, and the one before that, and so it's kind of like a snowball effect where you're just always mad at each other all the time. So, do you have any advice to kind of like to come back from that?
Do. I actually wanted to pivot really quick and ask, Sir Caleb, kind of the similar question. I know he's at the time of this recording, fresh with his relationship, but have you guys experienced that, argument or large disagreement? And what was kind of like both of y'all take when it came to the argument? So,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
difference.
Yeah, so we've definitely had a couple here and there. It's nothing major yet, because we're coming on 4 months here soon. So still really fresh, but I actually, now that you mention it, that's kind of something we do. So I wish I could do it as skillfully as you have. We don't always step away when we should, but whenever we're done with whatever we're arguing about or disagree about, um, once we've kind of settled down and we're ready to actually open up and listen to each other, we've actually been really good at making sure we do that. We try not to let anything stay unresolved if we can
Right.
help it. There's always something that you're just gonna have to agree to disagree on, but for most things, we once we're calmed down, once we're steady, we're just like, okay, this is what I was trying to say. Either it came off wrong or I said it wrong,
Right.
and it set it off. So that's kind of what we go for usually.
Good, good. I forgot to mention that too, which is a good point. The recap after the argument. So I guess you want to say like the aftermath, where everybody's cool. It's like, all right, this is what I was truly trying to say. Please don't take it the wrong way. So I think that recap is also vital. Instead of, I think it's maybe it's an older generation thing where they get into an argument and they cool off, but then they go back like everything is normal. Don't necessarily address what they were arguing about
Right.
unless it's
Hmm.
something that it's a long-winded discussion. But usually it's kind of like, oh, you want dinner? Yes, I'll get this for you, and then they kind of mosey on to their everyday activities. So the recap is vital, absolutely vital.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and then like I was, previous, I asked for those kind of relationships when you're arguing, and then you cool down, and then you guys just discuss the recap of it. So it's important to have that recap. So is that kind of like your suggestion towards preventing, kind of like that snowballing and continuing arguing?
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Because unresolved issues will continue to be unresolved. It doesn't just wither away just because we no longer speak about it. It's going to permanently stay there until we are mature enough to address it. Sometimes we don't want to be mature enough to address it, but we need to, because we don't need to go to, let's say, bed, or we don't need to go to our respective locations with an unresolved issue, because it's going to be burn it on the mind for the rest of the day. So that recap after an argument politely, not starting another argument, is so key, so key. So I'm so glad Caleb had threw that in there because that was something I definitely missed to mention.
Awesome. Yeah. Now to you, Kumar. How important is the word sorry?
uh, wow, what a question.
Yeah.
Sorry is sorry can be a very interesting one, and it needs to be sincere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like it goes to the notion of, you know, I love you. Going into that, like some people just say love you, or Illy, like they give you the acronym. But I'm sorry kind of comes from a place where it's like I know I hurt you. I apologize and I'm sorry. It's truly acknowledging that person's feelings, and I think that's key. And you can't get those. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be one of those. Hey, look, I'm truly sorry for what happened. I didn't mean it to go that way, and that's it. But again, context of it is always what matters. So again, I can't just take, hey, Caleb, yeah, sorry. Hey, Gabe, sorry for what happened. Like, I feel like it needs to be a little bit more structured and thought out and more, conversation. Look, so and so happened, and I am sorry. I apologize. For me, I feel like both are coupled together. I'm sorry and I apologize. Yes, they mean the same thing, but for me personally, I feel like it has a stronger effect mentioning both.
Yeah.
Gabe, what do you think about the word sorry?
I yeah. So I mean, it depends on how you say it, right? So
Yeah,
it's like oh, sorry, sorry that you feel that way. So there's definitely there can be a twist to it. So there can be the sarcasm behind it. There can be the literal meaning of it. But I think the most important part is the follow up of the action. So
mm,
you can apologize all you want, but if you're gonna be a habitual offender of whatever you're apologizing for, like my mom always said growing up, she's like, if you were sorry, you'd stop doing it. Because I would always, whether it be like, just doing something to make her mad or like annoy her, and then she would yell at me, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. She's like, you're not sorry, or yeah, if you were really sorry, you'd stop doing it. And so I think it's
right.
the follow up of the action that really implements the meaning of an apology.
That's very valid. That's very valid. I didn't think of that because I think kids have this notion too when they're young. Oh, they do something wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just
Right.
like second nature for them to say. So the follow up after the action is a good point to mention.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely it's awesome. Just like the difference between just verbalizing something and then the action of doing it, and just like the different effect it can cause, and in the
Right,
power of them combined. So,
right, right.
um now twisting into another question, when it comes to having a partner, so now this is either for you, Kumar, or you, Caleb. When it comes to your partner, why is it important to have something to be grateful for every day?
I guess I'll take the floor first. Being that the longevity here with my relationship. So honestly, every day we wake up is already, something to be grateful for. But having that significant other on a daily, regardless of the trials and tribulation, the ills and the battles that we go through, is something to be very grateful for. And on a daily, because sometimes we get to a point of complacency with a relationship and we take them for granted, right? So the simple things of, oh, she, picks up my shirt from the floor or something of the sort. Always, those little things always should add up, and just with the appreciation of always, thank you for doing this. Even though we overlook it because it's kind of like, I have you already. I don't need to do much. But every day finding that grateful moment of having that significant other is another way to show your appreciation. It kind of gets a little bit into like, for me, the way I'm thinking about it, kind of gets a little bit into like the five love languages almost, where if you can kind of touch in on that person's love language, especially if they're words of affirmation, and just on a daily, oh, just thank you for washing the dishes. It's like it's such a minute task, but you're thanking me for something that I could be taken for granted. So I think truly just finding a daily gratefulness for that person is ideal. And I think it just helps sustain and keep the relationship positive because the world, we can all admit it, the world is throwing negative at us. No matter which way we put it, social media, as much as we try to force our algorithm to give us only the positive, it's still going to find a way to seep in the negative. So we have to inundate ourselves and also our significant others with as much positive to try to drown out the negative. A quick analogy I would get into when it comes to the gratefulness, just throwing in so much positivity. I think of negativity like weeds, right? The weeds that grow from the ground. You can never ever truly get rid of the weeds. You can pluck it. You can try not to, you can do anything. So only thing you could do is just keep it at bay. But if you let it wild out, you'll see how you have a bush of weeds, and they grow out of nothing, which is amazing. Mother Nature is amazing, right? Especially seeing like weeds grow from like bridges and stuff. I'm like, how? But anyway, the point of it is you can never get rid of the weeds. Only thing you could do is keep it at bay, dilute it, or let it run rampant. And I feel that showing your gratefulness every day to your significant other is, in fact, helping to keep the negative at bay because they already go through negative in their day. We do as well. So we gotta, help each other out. So a little bit of a short question, long answer.
Yeah, I loved it. That was awesome.
So I'd kind of like to kind of piggyback off of that. And also, Gabe, you were talking about how, relationships can be compared to like goals, right?
Mhm.
I think that's awesome. Like one way to tie it all together, whether it's mental health, whether it's trying to be successful, whether it's trying to accomplish something, whether it's a healthy relationship. I think what Kamar said was huge. Complacency is always the enemy. And that's just a common fact for each of those like sections, right? Because if someone, it's a lot of people, I think from what I've personally observed, a lot of people will put all of the effort into getting that girl or partner or whoever it is, and once they have them, they're like, yep, I already got you. But if that's how like success worked, Gabe, when you set a goal, do you just work your butt off to accomplish it and then stop there? The rest of your life is all set?
Nothing fails like success.
Exactly. So I think it's awesome. I thought that was a great point. It's just complacency has to be your number one enemy because, think back to a time, maybe for someone who's been married for almost 8 years, it's a little more difficult. Um, but think about how much better that person has made your life.
Right.
It's something super simple, but it's such a big part of it, I think.
Boom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing I wanted to kind of touch back on was seeing relationships as a goal. And one thing I've learned in the countless books that I've read is always begin with the end in mind, right? What is the end? Everybody's end is different. But if your end is, let's say, marriage, if you will, theoretically, if your end is marriage, you want to start by working backwards. How do you work backwards? With marriage, obviously, it has to come with engagement. But what comes with engagement is a lot of communication, a lot of family gatherings, getting to know the potential in-laws, and so on and so forth. So, beginning with the end in mind with your goal. Your goal is to, because in my opinion, when you get in a relationship, you're not getting a relationship to say, "Hey, this is my girlfriend, this is my boyfriend." You're getting in a relationship for a purpose of betterment for you two, I hope, and I pray that's your direction. But you're getting in it for for both of you to be beneficial from it. So the goal aspect of a relationship was just so key, and I was like, yeah, begin with the end in mind. The end in mind, marriage and kids. Got to work backwards from that. And how do you work backwards? One step at a time. And obviously, then you get to the beginning, but with the end in mind is always going to be something that will help you persevere. So going back to complacency, all right? Why am I with this individual if all we're going to do is argue? No, but outside of arguing, we're really in sync. Like our synergy is amazing. So we need to figure out how to bypass this because the end is our, getting to the marriage point is walking down the aisle, if you will. So I kind of wanted to touch on that because that relationship as a goal was, I never truly thought of it like that. So that's good perspective.
And then I know this is kind of compared to what you just said is a little bit out of left field, but I wanted to jump way back to the apology thing. Um, I think even working something small like that, where you have the end goal in mind, will help with the comprehension of the communication. Because if you're no longer thinking, how do I say sorry, you're thinking, how do I let them know? How would they, think like, okay, he's saying sorry, but how would they take it sincerely? If you approach your apology with that approach, I think that you're going to get a lot farther, and then follow up with the actions like Gabe said. And I just wanted to throw that in there because I was thinking it, and then the conversation was rolling. But
Boom. You guys
Good
nailed
point.
that.
Good point. Good
Yeah,
point.
that was awesome. Now tying it into a book I once read. It's called The Compound Effect. Um,
Oh,
I,
yes.
I don't know. You've heard of it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So one thing that they bring up in that book is there was actually I don't even know if it was that book, but it was the same principle. A gentleman's failing marriage, and how him and his wife just weren't getting along. They always were bickering at each other, yada yada. He decided it was time to make a change in his life because um, with a failing relationship, it's not always just we're incompatible. Maybe it's I have stuff going on in my life that I need to touch up, and they have something going on in their life they need to touch up before we can care for each other, right? But one thing that he did in the book was the start of Thanksgiving. He bought a book with 365 pages in it, and every single day he wrote down something that he was grateful for in his significant other. And so that's actually
Mm.
where this question came from. But so every single day he wrote down something he was grateful for, and on Thanksgiving of the next year, read the whole book to his wife, and ever since then, like their relation, it was a true story. I can't remember what the guy's name was, but their relationship was just like booming from there, and they never had any more problems. Obviously it's not always like the perfect story, but for the literature when they were writing the book, they have to dramatize it. So
Right.
it was a perfect story, but their relationship improved tenfold. And so I think just having gratitude for your partner is so important.
Right. Right. So you leaned into something that is very pivotal for me and my wife. Me and my wife. As you can probably see behind me, I have a bookshelf. Those aren't textbooks. Those are, as we like to probably say, like personal development books or just, self-help books. Because we've really understood the point and the power of reading, and again, the positives that it has on a relationship. So what we've learned personally is I can kind of coach my wife through things, right?
Mm-hmm.
She may not resonate or she may not get it, but if she reads, for instance, my favorite book of all time, Magic of Thinking Big, if she reads that book, it's going to speak to her personally where I can never like truly get to that point. So I think, reading, self-help books or, just positive books is very beneficial for the relationship because it truly speaks to you personally. And it's going to yell at you. And who are you going to be mad at? The book? Well, you purchased the book. So you're going to throw the book. You have to throw it at yourself if that's the case. But I think books, like, truly help with when it comes to the positive outlook and just generally for relationships because it speaks to you differently. It's a different type of mentorship. It's self-mentorship, if you will, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, personal question for you, Kumar. When it came to developing the podcast, what was the inspiration? Why did you guys start it?
This is a funny question because it was honestly kind of a whim. So truly what happened was, I was doing an overnight job at the time. And I had a friend of mine who had launched his own podcast, financial literacy. And I said, if he's doing it, I could do this. But the problem when you want to start your own podcast is always, what am I going to talk about, right? Like, there's so many things you could talk about, but you want to talk about a topic that one you can stretch out for, let's say, starting out 50 episodes, 100 episodes, 200 episodes. So I was like, man, what can I talk about? I know I'm well rounded in so many different subjects, but what can I do where at this point I can add my wife in there? So at that point, I said, oh, hey, we went through trial and tribulation. We are high school sweethearts. We got married at 21. We can use maybe our story and also hear from other couples' story and create that into a podcast. And that's how we became 48 episodes in with our podcast, just talking about relationships on a whole. And that's kind of truly how it was born. So on a whim, just overnight, hearing somebody's podcast and saying, if you can do it, I can do it. Literally how it came about.
Awesome. I love that.
That's awesome.
How did you guys come about with yours?
Man, it was.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna let Caleb explain this one. Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of had this idea for this podcast a while ago, like way before I even met Gabe. I was just kind of like just a seed of an idea. Like I'd like to talk about it. I went through a whole mindset training program. I wanted to share this knowledge for people, have it available without having to pay a boatload of money just to learn it. And so then I kind of tucked it away, just kind of on the back burner for a long time. And then I kind of had like this kind of pitfall from this happy place to this really not so happy place. And then, so that's when I started hitting the gym and I ran into Gabe and just talking to him, we slowly started building this like energy and just instantly had this like, we talked about everything. I mean, we'd hit the gym and then talk for like hours afterwards about where we used to be mentally, where we fell, how to get back up, and just over and over again. And so then I like instantly, he said he wanted to be a motivational speaker, and I was like, do you want to join a podcast with me? Let's run this. And so he actually really helped me get the ball rolling, and like we got equipment and we just started popping out episodes like immediately. We didn't even have like this big plan. We just wanted to get creating and get inspiring for people.
Nice. Very similar to us. We just started recording, ordered something off of Amazon, just hit the road.
Yeah, we like the quote, "Ready, fire, aim." So when you have an idea in mind, it's most important to act on it right away, or else you're just never going to. And then once you act on it, kind of aim from there to see which direction you want to go.
100%. I agree with that. Goes back to another thing I read in another book. Not that this is necessarily a fear, but action cures fear. If you're fearing to do something, just take the action, the leap of faith, and boom, there you are. And look at you guys now. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that. So for the listeners on for It's Relational, where are you guys currently located? Your age and your career background, because we didn't get to touch on that yet.
Yeah. So I'm currently 22. I work a full-time sales job selling cell phones for Verizon. And then outside of that, I'm a realtor. So my girlfriend and I, we have a real estate team together here in town. And then I also do the podcast. So
Nice.
So that's what I do.
And I am 19 years old. I'm currently at a sales job selling knives, which sounds crazy, but it's actually a lot of fun. And then I'm currently in school to be, I'm in aviation, so I want to be a pilot eventually. And then the podcast is my number one goal / dream.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. So that being said, where are you guys located?
Michigan. We're in northern Michigan. Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys like? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're in a little town called Gaylord. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're like right here. So, if you look at the hand, yeah, that's how we do it in Michigan. So this is the hand of Michigan. We're like right there. So.
Oh wow! What's like a major city that's nearby?
One that you've heard of? Maybe
probably Detroit.
You ever heard of Detroit? that's
the only.
That's about 3.5 hours south. Yeah.
Because you've probably never heard of Traverse City, have you?
No.
Have you heard of Grand Rapids?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's about equal distance from Detroit to Grand Rapids. Like we're in the middle of nowhere.
Ooh. What about Mackinac? Have you heard of Mackinac?
I've heard the name before. Yeah.
We're like 50 minutes away from Mackinac, south.
Are you guys close to what's the name of it? Ada, Michigan? Is that anywhere near?
I think that's south a bit.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was trying to. I know a little couple places here and there, so I was like,
yeah. And I know we touched a little bit on it for you. You're from New York.
Yes.
So where are you at in New York?
So me and my wife currently reside in Queens, New York. So New York City is comprised of boroughs. It's 5. We're in the Queens area. We really love it. We used to live in the Bronx, but we moved to Queens. We moved about 6 years ago. Probably one of the greatest moves ever. It's one of those, we moved out of our comfort zone because everybody was in the Bronx. So the family, the friends, everything, the comfortability. We didn't take that huge leap of faith and leave, like New York in total. But, leaving like our, let's say, hometown was what was already kind of very nerve wracking. Because like, oh, we don't know anybody in this neighborhood, and we can't walk down the block and see a friend. So, that's where we are in here in Queens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome. New York's
yeah.
always one of the places I definitely want to visit sometime. So I've got a vision board right up to my left here, and one of my I have a travel section, and one of them is going to New York on New Year's Eve. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I will give you the very biggest heads up ever.
Hmm.
But you're from Michigan, so it may not be a factor to you. For some reason, New Year's Eve is just brutally cold. If you ever kind of like go watch the ball drop,
Yeah.
for some reason it's just brutally cold, like that day always every year. But I've heard you guys may get the cold is probably more brutal there.
A little bit.
I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes we sit in the
Depends on the
negatives for
winter.
yeah. Sometimes we'll sit in the negatives for a couple days, but
Then you'll be fine at Times Square.
oh, okay, sweet, yeah,
Yeah, you'll be fine at Times Square.
yeah,
But also for your listeners too. So I'm 29 years young. I am 30 in November. My wife she just turned 29 in July. So for the signs, people who care about the astrology, she's a Cancer and I am a Scorpio. Just for those who kind of care about those things,
yeah,
I just always get told, "Oh, you're a Scorpio." I'm like, "Yes." What does that mean? You're a Scorpio.
yeah,
Okay, thanks.
yeah. November what? What's the date?
November 2nd.
Oh, okay, yeah. My girlfriend's is on the 16th, so just
M-
Okay.
Mine's on mine's on the 9th, so it
Oh,
gaps out.
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Hey, when is your birthday, Gabe?
I'm 5/25, May 25th.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice,
I'm a
nice.
Gemini, friend of the viewers. So yeah. Caleb, what
I
are
know a
your
lot of people go hard about these zodiac signs. Like it's almost like it's full religion.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Does that make you a Cancer too then, Caleb?
No, I'm a Virgo.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
September 20th.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah.
I've been told that I've actually had someone have a first impression of me hearing my sign, and they like weren't a fan of me just because I was a Virgo. I was like, okay.
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's funny.
Ridiculous.
So I try not to pay attention to it, but I do know I'm a Virgo. That's about it though.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kamar, do you have anything else, anything of importance that you think would be awesome to add into today's episode?
No, I think we hit a lot of good points. One thing I probably would ask is relational, if you will. So Gabe, how long are you and your girlfriend together now?
Yeah, we've been together for 15 months, so just over a year.
15 months.
Yeah,
Okay. Obviously, the long-term goal is to stay together,
correct.
and be together, right? Um, so what would you say then, kind of getting back into our topic a little bit, but probably could be the final question. What would you say bringing positive, you know, aspects to your relationship has done for you guys? Like
Yeah.
bring in positive attributes. What has it done for you guys in your relationship?
I think it's really helped us become a team. It's helped us become kind of like two unstoppable objects. Like I said, we've created a real estate team together, and with having the strong foundation of becoming a team outside of even real estate, just a team of who we are in our relationship, has allowed us to build a strong foundation of trust. And without that trust, I don't think we'd be where we are, because it was long distance for a majority of our first couple months in the relationship. But we were able to, so we met in the summer. So we met in June, and we were together until she had to leave for school, and then she was at school for the whole next semester. And so kind of only knowing each other for a couple months, and then her going to a big university, there's always those questionable thoughts you have in mind and the doubts and everything. But it was through communication and us being able to learn to trust each other and become a solid team. That's how we got to where we are today.
Nice, nice, nice. I'm glad you mentioned the team aspect because what a lot of people don't realize, once you get into, obviously a relationship, but once the relationship spans into, business aspect, you guys go from, boyfriend, girlfriend to business partners real quick.
Yeah.
So you have to know which hat to put on for the situation. Sometimes you got to wear multiple hats because you have to be boyfriend and business partner, but you have to know which one supersedes.
Right.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'm very happy that you guys have created a team together, internally, and also, the realtor team too. That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
We love it. Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Caleb, do you have anything else you want to add to this one?
Well, one, I just think it's funny. So Gabe and I actually have reverse situations. I met my girlfriend at school, and then we went long distance over this summer. So it's just kind of funny how that's flip-flopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just you just got to give it a try. I was super scared to the idea of having a relationship. This is my first more serious relationship.
Right.
And it's a scary thing sometimes making a commitment, making that jump from just kind of talking to, wow, she's my girlfriend now. And
Right.
it's, just try to take it seriously, but don't take it too seriously. There's going to be times where one of you messes up or whatever happens. You just got to try to keep that positive outlook by, looking to the possibilities of the future, but making sure you focus on what's right in front of you at the same time.
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
Beautifully said, Caleb. So,
Thank you.
yeah. So I think I want to give a big shout out to you, Kumar, for coming on today. We appreciate it so much, man. You gave me a lot of awesome points. I wrote down quite a few. So you gave us a lot of good knowledge. I hope the viewers also gained a lot from this episode. And I just want to give you a big thank you for coming on today.
Right.
Seriously.
Right. Well, thank you both for obviously, doing this collaboration here too. What one major thing too? Where can the audience find you guys? Like, what platforms can they find you? Social media? Like, let's get into that because I'm sure people want to hear more, as I did when I first heard you guys.
Yeah. So pretty much our main platform is YouTube. And then from YouTube we basically direct from there. So come to YouTube because we are mainly a video podcast, and then you get to see all of our beautiful faces. So if you come over to YouTube, in all of our links, if you just want to listen to the audio only, it's gonna be a link to our Spotify, a link to our Apple Podcast, and then also our Instagrams are on there. So if you guys ever want to reach out to us, have any questions, stuff like that, you can definitely do that.
Yep, and then we also have a TikTok we work on sometimes.
Yeah.
Sounds like me.
And then same thing for you, Kumar. Where would you like people to go and check you guys out at?
So funny enough, you said TikTok. I'm like, I forget I have TikTok sometimes because I even have the notifications muted. So
Yep.
forget it.
Same.
But I'm primarily heavily on audio-based podcast. Recently just transitioned into YouTube, but we can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Cast, Stitcher, Radio Republic, a lot of different avenues where you find your audio podcasting pleasure. We're listed there as It's Relational the podcast, and on YouTube we're listed as It's Relational podcast, and same thing with Instagram. But only thing different is it's relational.co. But we're all here, and the same as them, we're always here to take in, maybe a new guest or also perspective. We're always here for that because everybody's perspective is always so drastically different. There's 7 billion people in the world. I'm probably lowballing that number, but
right
everybody's perspective is different. Yeah. So we're always here for it.
Yeah, definitely. So awesome, man. Once again, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it tons.
Yes,
seriously,
yes, likewise.
Yeah. Awesome.
This is our second collab of the year, so we're glad it was with It's Relational. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yes, it was a positive outlook.
Yeah. And to all of I appreciate it. And then to all the viewers, thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate every single one of you. You guys know that. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.